शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यामनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांशा श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदां सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितां च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुकुं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Wonderful. Thank you all for joining in today. Grateful. I know we are meeting after a couple of weeks, so jumping in today. Just making sure, are we starting text 15? Just double checking with everyone else as well.
Yes,
Okay, beautiful. So let me, I'm already sharing my screen. We are going to read verse 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yam hi na vyathayanti te.
यं
Yamhina
हीनां व्यतयन्ति ते
Vyatayante
Pu- Purusham Purusharshaba.
पुरुषं
Purusham
पुरुषाशव
Purusharva
Sammadukha Sukham Dhiram.
Sammadukka Sukham
खं धीरं
Somritatvya Kalpate.
Somritya
सौमृत्यात्वा कल्पते।
Beautiful. Can anybody read the translation?
I can read.
Please.
O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for reading, Proji. We'll read the purport also. Go ahead.
Yeah, anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varnasrama institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, sannyasa, is a pain, painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adapts the sannyasa order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having to severe family relationships to give up the connection of wife and children. But if someone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyasa at the age of 24 and his dependents young wife as well as old mother, and had no one else to look after them. Yet, for a higher cause, he took sannyasa and he was study in the discharge of higher duties. This is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage.
Beautiful, very wonderful. Thank you for reading it, Prabhu. When we talk about this verse, we are talking about a person who is not affected by the dualities of this world: happiness, distress, cold, heat, and everything else which happens in our life. So, this world we live in, the material world, is always designed to be actually sometimes gives us happiness, sometimes gives us distress. And I know it's summer should be there, but we are facing cold now, which is a very interesting aspect. But that's how material world is designed. And I remember I was just sharing another video last time, and I want to start from there. Let me put this in PowerPoint slide, and I'll share this so that, give me 1 second. Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to share the PowerPoint. Let me know when you see my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
And we remember, everyone remember we spoke about Meena Kumari, what great personality she was from material perspective. Everyone remembers that, or do you want me to play that video? Wonderful. I'm going to go to another person. Anybody remember this person as well?
Yes, Kishore Kumar,
Yes,
singer.
a very powerful singer, well known across the world, and at least in India. Let's see how his life looks like before. So I'm going to play this video. Are you able to hear it? Tell me.
Principles. Another example.
Can you hear me? Can you hear this?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Who is this man? Hmm. Very ordinary Bengali man. His brother was doing something in Bollywood and he started singing. And today, some of the topmost successful people in India, some of the topmost politicians, industrialists, sportsmen, if you ask them, who is their favorite, what is their favorite song singer, they'll say, Kishore Da. Ordinary man, but flourishing success. Recently, one devotee sent me a message and I asked him, Arey, I have not saved your number. Aap kaun hai? So instead of telling me his name, he wrote a song, Kishore Kumar song. And he was going through some difficulty. So I thought he will tell me his name. But instead of that name, he said, Koi hum na raha, koi sahara na raha. Hum kisi ke na rahe, koi hamara na raha. And then I said, wow, what a way to introduce yourself through Kishore Kumar. So I could imagine what a successful man this fellow must be, this person must be. That is influencing even after his death. After 30 years also, people are still haunted by his music, isn't it? So I was also so carried away by that devotee's introduction that just few days ago, in one program, somebody asked, आप 20 साल हरे कृष्णा में आप अगर कल बीमार पड़ गए, आपको कुछ पैसा नहीं है, बैंक नहीं है, कुछ है, घर नहीं है, आप कैसे रहेंगे? So spontaneously, I have not planned this. Spontaneously मेरे मुंह से क्या निकला? मुसाफिर हूं यारों, ना घर है, ना ठिकाना, मुझे बस चलते जाना है. And when I said it, I was also impressed. वाह, क्या impact है ये आदमी का, कि इतना भागवतम पढ़ने के बाद भी याद आया. So the point I'm trying to say is that success can be so intense, so immense, that there can be a huge generation of people just falling in love with you. That is to your success.
Okay. Everyone followed along what we discussed?
I did not hear. There's a lot of Hindi, right? So I
Yes,
couldn't get it.
I'll share. So basically, Kishore Kumar is such a famous singer. He came from a very ordinary background. However, he became a great successful person. And not just being successful is one aspect, but the impact that person created is tremendous. And that's what he was quoting few examples from his songs, talking about how people remembered him. The point which I'm trying to bring in from this video, again, the dualities, the verse we are reading today. Dualities, happiness, distress, success, and failure. Right? So now we are going to see the second part of the video and about both the personalities, what happened to them. Okay? So I'll again put it into PowerPoint presentation mode.
Their principles.
Okay, and I'm going to move to the next slide. Now let's revisit what happened in their life. So we are going to hear first from
These
for
three
Meena
principles,
Kumari.
let us revisit the story which I told you. What are that story? Two stories.
We
First
can't
one,
see the video.
Oops, 1 second. Then I will reshare again. Thank you. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Okay.
these three principles, let us revisit the story which I told you. What are that story? Two stories. First one, so Meena Kumari and Kishore Kumar. Meena Kumari, when she was a young 17, 18-year-old girl, one man, Kamal Amroi, who was already married, he already had a son who was just 1 year younger to Meena Kumari. He wooed her, proposed to her, trapped her in his love, and she agreed to marry him. And she was now a rising star, and she was such a powerful actor that Filmfare Awards during those days was the only award given for acting. And generally, in the Best Actress Award, there are 5 nominations, and one of them gets the award. And in one particular year, all the 5 nominations were for Meena Kumari. That was the power she had, that was the appeal she had. But her husband was a compulsive, obsessive husband who had made strict rules for her that she should just go home after the shooting, and from home she should just go for shooting. She had a bodyguard who would ensure she doesn't go here and there, doesn't talk to anyone else. She became choked up. And she started feeling abused in the relationship, but she was helpless. She wanted love, but no love. Then there was another actor who promised her, who gave her some love. She tried to be friendly with him, and her bodyguard stopped her and slapped her. It became ugly. She refused to go home. And then came this most historical landmark movie in Indian cinema called as Sahib Bibi or Gulam, where she portrays Choti Bahu, a lady who is an alcoholic, a compulsive alcoholic. And what an irony. Meena Kumari is called as the tragedy queen of Indian cinema. And during the shooting of that movie, she actually got addicted to drinking because she wouldn't get sleep. And one of her friends said, why don't you try a little brandy? And that little became little more. And eventually she became a compulsive alcoholic. And eventually her livers and kidneys started deteriorating. Meanwhile, she had 3, 4 more relationships. And then there was a big screening of a big movie in a theater where the governor, chief minister, they were all there and they were being introduced to Kamal and Meena Kumari. And the chief minister was being told, this is Meena Kumari, the legendary actor. And this is her husband, Kamal Amroi. And immediately he said, no, I am Kamal Amroi and this is my wife, Meena Kumari. And he walked out in anger. And it became news that they are not getting along well. And as the relationship deteriorated, as her movies were becoming successful, her health was deteriorating. And finally, this lady whose autograph the great dacoit king wanted, the whole India wanted to meet her, when she died in 1973, it was just 2 kilometers from here at Elizabeth Nursing Home, which is near Timbatti, Malabar Hill. She died alone, with nobody beside her. She had become big, fat, her kidney had failed, and she had, believe it or not, no money. And one of the producers had some money pending to give her. He arranged for the final cremation. This is a real life story. What went wrong? What she want in life? She wanted to connect. She wanted to study. If she had worked on these 3 principles, she would have been happy. Maybe she would not have been a very famous actor. Kishore Kumar. Now, what I told you, the story of Meena Kumari, this is by Mr. Vinod Mehta, who died last year. He's the founder of Outlook magazine. So he had written a book on her life story. And Kishore Kumar, you can read about him. His last interview was taken by Pratish Nandi. And he writes that the saddest man in India right now is Kishore Kumar. He was, during his last days, in an extremely lonely condition. All his songs would give hope to so many, but he was personally miserable. Outside his house, he had put a door, notice, just like we write, beware of dogs. Outside one house, I saw one board which was written, beware of dogs. And somebody had scribbled next to it, the dog is fine, beware of the master. But outside Kishore Kumar's house, he had himself written, beware of Kishore Kumar. And when somebody would come to his house sometimes, he would just grab that person and bite his arm. And he would act very eccentric. And he died at a very young age. When young age means 50s, early 50s. Extremely sad. Madhubala, one of the greatest actresses. Top Hollywood directors would come to see her. And she died a very painful, alone, miserable death.
Beautiful. Were you all able to hear this?
Yeah.
What do you think is the takeaway from this whole snippet which I shared?
I mean, material success is not necessarily a guarantee of happiness or peace, contentment. So, I mean, we all think that money, power is gonna, title, fame is gonna give you all the happiness, but that's not true.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other comments or reflections?
Yes, specifically in Meena Kumar, right? Just repeating what I heard is she had a fame, she had everything except the peace, right? Love, peace. That's what makes people live for a long time and feel good. But that's missing. Everything else was all going good for her.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much. Any other reflections?
Success.
Sorry, Mataji, go ahead.
Okay. I think success has consequences also if it's too much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Mamita Mataji, you want to add something?
Yeah, it was almost the same. Fame, success, materialistic behavior, these are all temporary. Bhakti is the like constant.
Beautiful. Okay, wonderful. Surya Prabhu, thank you for joining. You have some reflections?
Good afternoon. No, I think I agree with all the other comments, but I was thinking it's not the problem of fame, success, or running after that. I think the context in which we obtain that is more important. As long as we keep the eye on the ball, I think the whole problem is we have to use it as a stepping stone towards something greater in life. And as long as we do that, I think we will be anchored. And the question is, what is the anchor we want?
Amazing, amazing. All these reflections are beautiful. And this is the whole idea. I wanted to share this and I want to hear from you rather than sharing my reflections, which is okay, not so important, versus how you beautifully are sharing these reflections. Appreciate your inputs here. Like we discussed about the verse, connecting back this to the verse, which is the dualities of the world. Krishna is telling Arjuna that the dualities of the world are going to happen, but a person who is not affected by the happiness or distress, success or failure, is the key. And like Surya Prabhu had mentioned towards the end, what is our anchor? What are we looking the success for? That's an important aspect. If we are lingering around the material success and try to enjoy that, we will be miserable. It's not the problem is with success, but problem is that when we are just living the life of material material realm, never thinking about the higher goal of life, one or the other day, the same success will be the cause of our death. Because ultimately, whatever we have today, whatever we are going to achieve today, is based on whatever deeds have been performed. And what we do with that decides the next destination. You see, there are so many beautiful examples. How many know about Buddha's story? How did Buddha become Buddha? Anybody remembers his story?
I think he sees the suffering in the kingdom. He is raised not to,
Uh-huh.
not he's not exposed to any sufferings or any bad things in life. And
Hmm.
then once he goes into his kingdom and then sees, that's where he has that
Amazing.
transformation, and why is there so much suffering on earth.
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much for adding that. So Gautam Buddha became Buddha. His parents actually concealed him for seeing the birth, old age, disease, and death. These are the four problems we all have. We have no control over it. It just comes, we have to accept it. But what happens when he sees, he's surprised because he's seeing first time the birth, he's saying first time the old age, disease, and death. He realizes, what is this bitter truth? And he transforms himself to become a great saint, Gautam Buddha. He is actually one of the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So this is the point which I'm trying to bring in here, is that ultimately whatever material prosperity we have, if we don't connect with Krishna, until we don't connect with the real purpose of life, unfortunately that becomes our biggest bottleneck. That's the point which I wanted to bring in. And Prabhupada mentions, maybe let me come back and share the screen again, because I think I just shared the PowerPoint. I lost the screen share, so I'm going to again share 2.15. Prabhupada brought in two important points here, that one has to have a steady determination to actually grow in spiritual life, which is the most important part. One may linger around, oh yeah, spiritual life is necessary. All of us, when we join, we think, yeah, I think I got it. We need spiritual life, which that's the crux. But at the same time, with the same determination which we practice, we come to university, or we get same determination to achieve some great job and everything. We have to use the spiritual life with the same determination, because that is ultimately the goal of life. And then Prabhupada gave an example about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We will cover that pastime, the beautiful one, sometime down the line. But he could gives an example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Why he is doing that? To set up an example. And he of course did it for the welfare of other folks. That is not applicable, because we are not God. But the point here is that when we perform our varnashram dharma, we perform remembering that the goal of life is not to stay in family life and taking care of the family needs, but go beyond that and think about the purpose of life is to actually get out of the cycle of birth and death and attain that abode where we can serve Krishna eternally. So that's the point which I wanted to bring in from this purport. Any comments or reflection before we move to the next verse? Okay, we are good. So we will read 2.16. Nashato vidyate bhavo,
नाशातो विद्यते भावो
Oh,
na bhavo vidyate satah,
na bhavo
Bhagavad
vidyate
Gita.
satah.
ubayorapi drishto antas,
Ubhayor api drishto
Sure.
antas.
tva anayostattvadarshibihi.
Tva
Ayana
ananayus tattva
Sattvadarshi.
darshibhi.
Beautiful. Who can read the translation?
Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
Beautiful. Before I go, or let's read the purport and then I will cover the one of the slide. Go ahead, Manji.
There is no endurance of the changing body, that the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and mind. That is the difference between the matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalists and personalists. In Vishnu Purana, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotismi Visnuna Bhuvanani Vishnu. The words existent and non existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is a version of all saves of truth. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme being understood as a relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origination of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature as it will be revealed in the seventh chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic is accepted by the supreme, the energy and the nature is accepted by the subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This is an exhaustive purport. Prabhupada is specifically talking about the difference between matter and spirit, like a car and a driver. The driver is the soul, and then the car is like the body. What drives the car is the soul which is within it. So, as long as the soul is there within our body, we are able to see, we are able to hear, we are able to perceive. But as long as that soul is gone, which is eternal, the body is not of any use. The body deteriorates really fast. I'm sure everyone here in the room, one or the other way, have seen someone very close to us just leaving the body, and then you can't keep the body for more than few days, just because the body deteriorates at such a high speed that even they cannot actually take care of the body. That's the reality. So when we talk about what is the difference between body and spirit, and I want to share again the PowerPoint slide here. Let me see if I have that. Okay, you're still seeing PowerPoint slide, is that right?
Yeah,
Put it into presentation mode. Are you able to see that slide?
yeah,
Okay, beautiful. So, what we are discussing in this verse is the difference between non existent and existent, or permanent and temporary. The body is the matter which is made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. There is a spirit soul which is not made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The soul is conscious, the body is not conscious. Now, one may say, how is that possible? If someone hits me, I am conscious, I understand what's going on, but that only happens when there is a soul within that body, but body itself is not conscious without the soul. For an example, if we have soul within our body, we actually touch the fire, we immediately burn our hand and we move our hand behind. However, the same body is completely burnt in fire, but nobody realizes what happens because there is no soul within that body. The body always changes. That's the verse we were discussing about. We were small, we grew up young, we are getting old, and some we will get old age, and then ultimately the end will come. Right? That's the reality. We are changing every moment. This is scientifically proven. I'm sure you are aware of that part. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal. The body by nature is dead. As long as there is soul, it is alive. Otherwise, it is dead. But the soul itself is alive, irrelevant of whatever position we are in, whether The soul leaves the body, it is still alive. It enters the next body, is still alive. Leaves the next body, is still alive. It's not affecting the soul altogether. Does it make sense? Okay,
Yes,
beautiful.
Prabhu.
Wonderful. So, with that, we will move to the next verse, 17. Please follow along. Avinashi tu tadvidi,
अविनाशी तु तद्विधि
yena sarvam idam tatam,
येन सर्वम् इदं ततं
vinasham avyayasyasya,
विनाशाम् अव्ययश्च
na kaschit kartumarhati.
न कश्चित् कर्तुम् अर्हति.
Beautiful. Who can read the translation?
I can do.
Please.
That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Beautiful purport, please.
This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as one-tenth, one-ten-thousandth part of the upper portion of the hair point inside. The
Shweteshwara.
Shvetashvara Upanishad confirms this. When the upper
You can read the translation, ma'am.
yeah,
Yeah.
when the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as one-tenth thousandths of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark, this very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mukunda Upanishad, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the five kinds of air: prana,
Beautiful. Yeah.
apana, vyana, samana, and udana, is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the five kinds of material air, spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatsa Yoga system is meant for controlling the five kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from entanglement of the material atmosphere. So, the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mukunda Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscle which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscle, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the medical science, however, does admit that heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha or superior energy. So, whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body, and the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by personality of Godhead himself.
Amazing. This is a long purport, but a very, very elaborate and beautiful purport mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. This is like, for an example, if I have to put an analogy here, say one has a leg pain, and then you take a Tylenol. Where do you take Tylenol from? Definitely not from the leg. You put it from mouth. But how does it work? Right? It you put it from your mouth, but it goes wherever it has to take care of that piece. This is the best example or one possible example of understanding how consciousness works, right? Where the consciousness is there pervading entire body, and it actually, that's how we actually see the presence of soul. For an example, a thorn pricks in our feet, immediately the brain gets to know. The signal is sent to the brain saying that, oh, you know what, something is wrong at my feet. And then we basically feel pain and pleasure. But what happens with the same body when the soul is gone, the consciousness is gone? Irrelevant of, like I was giving an example, I somehow it just comes to my mind when I was just burning my wife's body. They put me saying that, can you do that? And I was just, I can't remember that experience throughout my life. The person whom I love the most entire life, I am just be the responsible person to burn her body itself. But that body is not experiencing any pain. The body is not experiencing any pleasure. Why? Because the soul is not there. Because that consciousness is not there. Any of us who have ever gone to Ayurveda, they actually check your pulse. What do they see in pulse is a very important part which Prabhupada is bringing in here. Let me go back to that line where Prabhupada is mentioning about five prana vayus. He is mentioning about very important aspect of that. What is that? Yeah, prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. Ayurveda, if you go, they actually work on these five air. If any of these air is not, it's weak, they ask you or they give you medicine to actually increase that. For an example, one of the vayu, I don't know which one, is actually responsible for our digestion system. And if our digestion system does not work properly, it affects every organ of the body, because now you don't get what happens in terms of the blood being produced when the blood is circulating. I remember, like, for my wife, she had a disease called as pulmonary arterial hypertension. So we have a small artery between the heart and lungs which actually sends the blood for purification and sends it back to actually circulate across the body. And that vessel was blocked, they couldn't do anything. So imagine how deep science is that within our body, but everything revolves around the consciousness. And what is the science of the soul we discussed about? It's the tip of the hair, not even a hair. We know how small is the hair. The tip of the hair, you divide it by 1,000 times, 100 times, and again each molecule you divide by 100 times. That's the that's the size of the soul, impossible to even visualize. And where is it? It's within the core of our heart. And that's how the consciousness is through that soul is permeating into our body. Whether I'm speaking right now, whether you are listening right now, it's happening just because of that consciousness, because of the presence of the soul. Any questions or comments before we move to the next verse? Okay, seems to be self explanatory. Let's move to the next verse. Text 18, please follow along. Antavanta ime deha
Antavanta ime deha
nityasyokta shariranaha
nityasokta sariranah
anasino prameyasya
anasino prameyasya
tasmadyudyasva tasmadyudyasva bharata.
tasmad yudvasya bharata.
Please, please read the translation. Anyone? Go
The
ahead.
material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata.
Beautiful. Just to remind, what is this answer in context of what question? Chapter 1 was focused on four arguments, and then it came to the fifth one. We are actually seeing all these answers in further chapters. Excuse me. One of the important thing which Arjuna asked about the compassion on the bodily platform, and that's the answer being described here. The compassion has to be applied not only on the temporary body, but it has to be applied on the platform of the soul. And that's the argument which is being by Krishna here to Arjuna. And the second one he talked about, again, just to talk about those compassion, loss of enjoyment, that's the E, and S is the sinful reaction, and D is the destruction of family tradition. So these are the four arguments I gave. And fifth one, which was basically being indecisive, he was not able to counteract all of his questions based on these four questions. He wasn't able to answer, and that's what Krishna is answering. So we will read the purport, please.
The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately or it may do so after 100 years. It's a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So, from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation because the living entity, as he is, cannot be killed, nor
Mhm.
can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily considerations.
Very important. Thank you so much, Mataji, for reading. One of the things which we have to understand here, we are not Kshatriya. We are not fighting for Krishna. So if one takes this verse and think about, oh, you know what, I'm killing the body, right? I can even and I'm killing the body, that doesn't apply to the soul. Sorry, we are not talking about that. So I know you guys are very clear about it, but I just want to make sure we understand from that perspective. We are not using Bhagavad Gita as a medium to kill everyone, thinking about they are not the body, they are the soul. But here, Arjuna is asked to kill because he wants, Krishna wants to establish dharma, and for dharma, not for his sake, for welfare of others, especially Bhumi Devi, who has been struggling for that thing. And one of the things which we all have to understand. So I have a question for all of you. Maybe let me put it that way. So we understood about the size of the soul. So how about elephant? Does elephant have the same size of the soul as what is being mentioned here?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
And how about the ant?
Same.
yes,
What is that?
Same.
Same size.
yes, same size.
Correct. Thank you. You guys are champions. Exactly the same thing. The size of the soul doesn't differentiate. The body one may acquire based on the karma. Someone becomes elephant, someone become an ant, someone become a human. At the end of the day, the body acquisition is provided based on our karma, and who grants the body is material nature, and material nature does so by the sanction of the Lord. So ultimately, what we receive is based on our karma. Nobody else is responsible for that one. One of the important point which is being brought in here is that the soul and super soul, they continue to exist, and super soul comes with the soul irrelevant of whatever body we take in. And that's why super soul is considered to be our best friend, because it does not judge, doesn't discriminate what body I'm getting in. Wonderful. Any questions or comments before we move to the next verse?
Yeah, quickly. I mean, I think we all are in agreement that body and spirit or soul are tangible versus intangible. So, so if the soul is the main source or the driver of the body,
Hmm.
the thoughts that we have, the intentions that we have,
Yes.
who's driving that, right?
Very good.
So,
Very good. Thank you. Very beautiful. So we have gross body, which we already covered, made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. They are dull matter, so they don't have any intelligence baked in that. Then we have soul. So we talked about this, we talked about the soul, but there are two more important things which we know, but they are part of that. So gross body is that, then there is a subtle body. The subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. And whatever thought process we have, whatever intelligence we have, whatever we are thinking, or the desires, are actually the byproduct of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So what happens, like a computer memory chip, what we do is, based on the program we write, it stores that information, and that continues until that is erased. So same way, when we are living in our life, we are trying to create those impressions on the mind and intelligence. When we leave our body, the mind intelligence also goes with the soul. The indirectly, the subtle body goes along with the soul. What does that mean? Which means we carry our impressions we cultivated in our previous lives, we continue with that in the next life. But one may say, okay, then why don't I remember what happened to me in my last life? That's an important part. Some of us remember our past life, and there are so many incidents about it. Not everyone does it, but there are some people who still remember, or some people have phobias where they are afraid of heights, they are afraid of water. Where is that coming from? That is coming from their previous life. A person who actually drowned in his previous life, his or his her life, is afraid of water in next life. A person who actually fell from the cliff is afraid of the heights. So that's one of the best way of understanding how we carry the impressions. Now, why we do not remember our previous lives? Because if I am a king in this life and next life I become a beggar, I will be more miserable. I remember I was a king in my previous life. That's the reason the nature of the law of the nature is, we are, whatever impressions we have, they subtly exist, but we continue to forget our memories in terms of what happened to us in our previous lives. But Srimad Bhagavatam portrays so many examples where actually someone specially practiced spiritual their last life, and they moved forward and they continued from there. The two of the best example is Bharat Maharaj, on whose name this country name, or India country name, is Bharatvarsh. He was actually a great king, and then he went to the forest. So actually he was practicing varnashram dharma, and when he was practicing, he left his family, he went to the forest. And when he was in the forest, what he saw, there was all of a sudden the lion roared, and there was a mother deer who was actually carrying a child in her womb, got afraid, and she actually delivered the baby, and then she immediately died. When Bharat Maharaj saw this deer, he was thinking about, who is going to take care of the small deer? Let me take care of it. He brought that small deer, and then was taking care of the small deer, making sure the deer gets everything, it's protected and all that stuff. But during that period, what had happened is he forgot his spiritual practice. He was so attached to deer, he was always thinking about, oh, is the deer safe and all that stuff. And with that consciousness, he left the body. Now, what does Bhagavad Gita says? That law of last thought. What did he remember at last thought? He remembered the deer. So what did he become in next life? He became a deer. But because he practiced devotional service, he remembered his mistake in his previous life. So as a deer in his next life, what he would do is he would hang around um, near the ashram of very saintly people and would hear katha from them. And when he died, he left with that consciousness. In the next life, he became Jad Bharat. Jad means a person who looks like mad. He doesn't know. He is like fool, to put it that way. But why did he keep like that? So that I don't get distracted by the material world. Because if I'm fool, nobody will come to me and give me an offer from AWS saying that, oh, you know what, we will give you 300K salary or 500K salary. If a fool is there, nobody wants to talk to him, nobody wants to actually deal with him. But he was a great transcendentalist. And there is a beautiful story how he actually preached another king called as King Rahugana in Srimad Bhagavatam. So coming back to the point which you asked about, where are these impressions coming from? Where are our thought processes coming from? They are coming with our subtle body, which came with the soul, and with came with the soul, and that's how we actually still have those impressions. For an example, the greed, lust, envy, anger, where is that coming from? That continues from our previous lives. That's why when we try to chant, we are not able to focus, because all these anarthas means unwanted things, they are keep bothering our brain. And it takes so much of time and energy with the meditation to actually get away with them and purify our consciousness, or purify our desires. Did I answer your Mataji? Did I answer your question, Supraja Mataji?
Yeah, I think probably we'll get into more discussions later as to how the soul continues its journey, right? Because of the reincarnation, the whole purpose of it, reincarnation, is for the soul to attain its ultimate enlightenment. So I think, yeah, probably we'll discuss more.
Actually, we can cover that. I don't want to take the next verse because this is very interesting aspect and this has to be clarified. So let me clarify the point which you said. The soul is taking the birth, not that because it has to be delivered. The soul is taking, oh sorry, the soul is getting into the next body is based on the karma. So I will keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going in 84 lakh species of life until I come to this point, which was discussed in previous verse. And there is a beautiful verse or beautiful Sanskrit term which is called as Athato Brahma Jignasa. Unless my inquisitiveness, my desire to understand what is the purpose of life doesn't come, we will keep rotating, keep rotating, keep rotating in our next birth, next birth, next birth, next birth. Not that it is an evolution process where, oh, you know what, um, after a certain period of life I'll automatically become liberated. No, it doesn't happen that way. Like for an example, a lot of times it happens, like I remember in India there used to be a concept of chartered accountant, CA. A lot of times they will keep trying, and one time they'll pass. It doesn't happen like that in spiritual life that I will become liberated. One has to endeavor to get liberation. One has to inquire about what is the purpose of life. Who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship with God? And if my relationship is broken, how can I revive that relationship? That is all about spiritual life. And that is the one which takes us from one body to another body. And ultimately, when we come to the perfection of our life, we attain liberation and we attain the lotus feet of Krishna. Was it more helpful, Supraja Mataji?
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Wonderful. I think I don't want to take the next verse. If we have any other reflection or thoughts which you want to bring in, we can bring. Okay. Can we quickly summarize what did we discuss in today's class from the beginning till the end?
It's about, as we were talking, the tangible versus intangible, the body versus the soul.
Mm.
And we also talked about the duality in life as to
Ah,
ups and downs, and how do you keep yourself steady going through those various phases of life, still keeping your goal and destination in mind.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, that was wonderful point. Any other reflections? Rest of the people here in the call. Any other reflections? Whatever you remember. What is the takeaway for you for today's class?
Prabhu, I forgot that you said something about the prana,
Ah,
the
four vayus,
four
prana
vayu.
vayu, samana vayu. So these are the life airs. If I have to specifically put those, these are the life airs which actually goes around our body. And if any of this life air is weak, that affects, and that's how they actually check the pulse. They actually check all these vayus to see. I'll give you one example. When I went to one of the Ayurveda doctor, he said, "Do you do exercise?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." The moment he took my pulse, he said, "Doesn't look like you do exercise." And he was right, actually. He knew it because I can say it externally, but the Vayu can tell how healthy that Vayu is. And that's why our yoga is one of the very important thing to actually revive these life airs. Make sense, Madhaji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Beautiful. Any other reflections?
I think we pick up that material world, the material, the body itself is a material world that is destructible, but the soul cannot be.
Yes, beautiful. Yes, very important point. I'll be very honest. Just want to spell this out. I know we have 3 minutes. Even though we know all this theoretically, we have no realization to that stuff. It just remains a theory for us. I'll give you one example. When you go to the dentist to actually remove a tooth or remove a teeth, whatever we call it as, it is so painful. Though it is, oh, it's a teeth, it's a body, it is made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Then do you feel that, oh, it's, oh, forget it, I don't want to care about the pain. The pain is so severe, you forget that I am the soul, you think about I am the body. So ultimately, where does the spiritual life starts? The first part of the spiritual life is understanding we are not the body, we are the soul. But that's not the end of this knowledge. Ultimately, when I understand I am not the body, I am the soul, even if theoretically I want to engage myself in devotional service, because understanding I am the soul will not liberate us, will not deliver us from cycle of and death. It just remains a theory. Even if I practically realize it, of no use. So one has to come to the platform of, if I'm not the body, I am the soul. I want to engage in the service of the Lord. And the best way to engage ourselves in the service of the Lord is to remember Him by His holy name. Because Krishna's name, form, and qualities are not different from each other. With that, I know I'm at 4:59. Let's chant one round together. But before I do that, any final reflections or comments?
And just one, once you say the last comment, I just realized one thing, that the spirit or the soul that we are talking about is very simple. Like when other people hurts other people by talking, that
Yeah,
they don't hurt your body.
correct.
Why? Just because you get hurt from someone, see, just like your soul is hurting. Just because somebody say that's a bad thing to you, it's just your soul hurts because they didn't slap you, they didn't do anything, by words only.
Very interestingly, Mataji, your point also relates to Mataji's point. It's not even the soul. Because imagine the size of the soul is so small. If someone misbehaves with me, does it affect the soul? Definitely not. But then now the question comes in is, what is affected? The soul cannot be affected, the body cannot be affected. So what is getting affected? Coming back to that subtle body, it's all
Certainly.
mind business. All mind business. Mind's business is three things.
Yeah.
What is the job, or what is the title, or what is the roles and responsibility of the mind? Thinking, feeling, and willing. Now, the feeling aspect of the mind is the one which makes you think, oh, this guy did not treat me well. We should have done this. That person have done that. This is all business of the mind. Nothing comes from the soul. Nothing continues from the soul. Everything is created as an impression on the mind. Intelligence discriminates, moves forward with the soul. Isn't it really interesting?
one remarks on that,
Mm.
because we are not a autistic person. You know, some autistic person doesn't have that sense.
Yeah,
So how come that's I think they're called their pure souls, isn't it?
that's a I would put it that way. They don't have a sharpened intelligence because of whatever situation they are in. They are not able to do the thinking, feeling, and willing. Not that they are the pure soul, but it doesn't affect them. So that makes their life easier. But at the end of the day, they are still suffering. Making sense?
Right.
I think we're about the material and non-material, and as we're talking about bodies, destructible changes, uh, and it's not permanent. But at the same time, I think we have to give importance to making sure that we keep our body healthy and hygiene,
Absolutely.
because our body is a chemical reaction, right? As we are talking about the consciousness, subtle body, and then the